Hello. So today I want to talk about a topic that comes up a lot in my client sessions. Usually, when I work with clients, we do a vision crafting for the relationships. And most of my clients will bring up the topic of wanting to be with a spiritual partner when we do the vision crafting. And so I'm left with the job of having this dreaded conversation around why that may be not such a great idea. And I want to kind of address why that is today. So it's very understandable, right, that we would want to be with a spiritual partner. Having, been into a lot of spirituality, still am into a lot of spirituality myself, it seems like such a natural fit to want to be with someone who is very much into the same things that we are into, and they want to be also in a spiritual relationship. So, this is a very natural part of us wanting to be with someone with whom we'll feel accepted for the practices that we have and the things that we include in our lives in the form of spirituality. But on the flip side, we also have to look a little deeper as to why that might not be such a good idea. And what I will tell you is that a lot of people who have gone into spirituality have had typically childhoods that have been fairly challenging, young adulthoods that have been fairly challenging, and their sense of self was really stretched and challenged when they were growing up. So when they come into spirituality, they're coming in as an initiation for them to experience a sense of self-reliance and to discover their sense of self through spirituality. Now, spirituality is a beautiful way of doing that because it shows you how you can redirect your attention from the outside world to your inner world and help you to consume and understand, digest your emotions and your feelings, and to take that within in order to come up with answers. So that's a really beautiful thing that spirituality gives us. And what I find is that this type of internal dialoguing and journeying and self-reliance is really important for us to discover why we are here on this planet, what our purpose is on this planet. And so this initiation is what spirituality is great, because it directs us to look within ourselves for answers. But on the other hand, this could be challenging in a relationship dynamic. Why? Because a relationship actually requires a different type of engagement in life. A relationship is really about us kind of trying to find this balance between what we want and what this other person wants and needs. So a relationship is about us understanding where our ego has actually kind of taken over, and stepping back that ego and seeing the other person as very much a part of ourselves. So everything the other person is wanting and needing, we're seeing that as part of ourselves. So it's very much about opening our heart to welcome in another person completely within ourselves and learning how to do that. So it has this dynamic of being a mirror kind of situation where the other person is showing us the parts of us that we have actually disowned within ourselves, that we are being called upon to bring back within ourselves. And so the spiritual people who have gone through a lot of hard work to unwind and stop giving up their sense of self to others are going to be challenged by this idea of bringing balance back by coming back to the middle ground and actually learning to give a little bit more in the equation. So that is the challenge we're going to encounter in a relationship, which we envision as being very spiritual and very beneficial to us from an emotional perspective. And so the confusion is really coming in with the fact that just because someone is spiritual doesn't mean that they necessarily have the emotional intelligence to be in a relationship that is fair and balanced. So this is what we want to clearly see as a challenge to overcome, as a problem to overcome in relationships that we seek with a spiritual partner, so to speak. Now, there's nothing wrong in wanting to have a spiritual partner in our lives, but as with everything in our life, we want to go into things with eyes open and not eyes shut. So why I'm doing this video is so you can recognize that that it's not just a fantasy, that there are some things that we have blind spots on when it comes to spiritual life and spiritual existence that we need to open our eyes and start seeing so that we can go into it with realistic expectations rather than unrealistic expectations. So as part of this, it's really important to have a key or core belief shift if you want to make a relationship successful with a spiritual partner. And that is this. We have to understand that we still have to tune into our own needs and wants and desires in a relationship and balance our expectations out in a relationship. And we've got to go in with our eyes open that just because a relationship is spiritual does not mean that we are going to have an easy and smooth sailing relationship. So when we can have this belief shift, we can stop having fantasies about what we want our relationship to look like and instead embrace the reality of what the relationship will bring and in fact is most likely to bring to us. A lot of times we also are unaware of the fact that when we go with a spiritual partner, there's a good degree of spiritual narcissism on both sides. What I mean by this is when two people are very caught up in their sense of self and being very tuned into who they are being as individuals and why they are here, there's a degree of independence and self-reliance that comes into play in relationships that can actually wreak havoc in a relationship. So what is the solution? I don't want to be all problem-oriented. I want to give you a solution that you can take away today that you can use if you're wanting to be in a relationship or partnership with a spiritually oriented person. So the first thing we must do is we must pare back our expectations and still do our due diligence of being within ourselves, using the ability to self-reflect and see where our expectations are being unreasonable and bring those expectations back a little bit, ground ourselves back in reality so that we don't have unrealistic expectations. And then what we can do from there is to really use our relationship as the basis to take our spiritual practice to a whole new level. And the way to do this would be to really look at what the mirror is that we see in a relationship and what the disowned parts are within us that the relationship is bringing up, and do our relationship work to call those parts back within ourselves. Because when we enter into a relationship, by nature of being so close to someone, we are going to see aspects of ourselves that we have pushed away. And we want to really take this as an opportunity to bring that back to wholeness within ourselves. And when we can do this, relationship then becomes part of our spiritual practice. And both partners would need to have this sense of commitment to each other that they're going to use the relationship as a spiritual practice to grow themselves and to come to the next state of their being, to that higher level of connecting with each other at the soul level. And then that can become a very beautiful space for both partners to really sit with and enjoy each other and create that thriving relationship that we all want to have in our lives. It's so good to be a part of your life, and I wish you an amazing journey and lots of love.